I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, honestly. My name is Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. We met in college, fell in love fast, and married shortly after. For a while, it seemed like we had a pretty normal, even good life. We bought a house, had some pets, and I thought we were in it for the long haul. But over the last year or so, I started noticing things that didn't add up, little cracks in our perfect picture. First, she became more distant. She'd be on her phone constantly, whispering to someone when she thought I wasn't looking. She'd lie about where she was going or who she was talking to. Sometimes she'd be late coming home from work, and when I asked where she'd been, she'd brush me off, get defensive, or just change the subject. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I couldn't shake this feeling that she was hiding something. Then came the big sign, something I can't unsee now. A couple of months ago, Lisa had to go in for a routine medical screening. It was supposed to be a quick checkup before she started a new job. But the day after, she was acting weird, nervous, jittery, avoiding me. I asked her about it, but she said everything was fine. Still, I noticed her phone buzzing constantly, and she'd hide it quick when I came near. It was like she was trying to hide something, and I felt it in my gut that I was right. One night, I got curious enough to peek at her phone when she stepped away to the bathroom. That's when I saw it, texts between her and someone named Mark. She was calling him babe, talking about meeting up, saying she couldn't wait to see him again. My stomach dropped. It was obvious they weren't just friends, not by the way she was texting. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and confusion. How could she do this to me? After everything we'd been through. It wasn't just the texts, though. I noticed she'd been acting more secretive, more dismissive of me. She'd come home late, smell like other men's cologne, and there were little things, hidden receipts, unfamiliar perfume on her clothes, late-night calls she'd try to hide from me. It was like she was protecting her lies so fiercely, like she had something to hide that she knew would shatter everything. I was starting to see the cracks in the perfect life I thought we had, and honestly, I didn't know what to do with the anger burning inside me. I felt betrayed, but more than that, I felt stupid for not seeing it sooner, for trusting her so blindly. The worst part, I still loved her, at least on some level. It hurt to admit it, but I cared, not just for what we had, but for her. That was the part that made this so damn painful, because somewhere deep down, I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't ready for the storm that was coming. I just kept thinking about that night, how my life changed in a heartbeat when I found out she'd been lying to me, hiding this whole other world from me. And I wondered, was I enough? Did I miss the signs? Or had I been blind all along? I remember the moment I finally decided I couldn't let this go anymore. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Lisa was out shopping with her friends. I was supposed to be working late, but I'd snuck out early, feeling this gnawing need to see the truth with my own eyes. I followed her to a small, dimly lit coffee shop downtown, the kind you wouldn't notice unless you knew it was there. I sat in my car across the street and watched her walk in. I saw her sit with a guy I'd never seen before, and they weren't just talking. The way they looked at each other, the way she reached out to touch his hand, like they were more than just friends. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I stayed there watching from afar, trying to process what I was seeing. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Was this the reason she'd been so distant lately? Was she cheating on me for months? I couldn't believe it. My heart was pounding and my stomach felt numb. I wanted to run over there, confront her, ask her what the hell was going on. But I also knew I had to stay calm. I had to see it through. After about an hour, she left with him. I followed at a distance, just to see where they were going. They drove to some rundown apartment complex not far from downtown. When they got inside, I kept my distance but made sure I could see through the window. I saw them kissing there on the balcony, and I knew. I knew she'd been lying to me all this time. The woman I loved, the woman I married, was with someone else, someone she'd been hiding from me while I was working, stressing over bills, trying to plan our future. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stayed up, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. I felt like I'd been punched again and again. Part of me wanted to break down, to cry and scream. But another part, more stubborn, knew I needed to do something. I couldn't just let her get away with it. She'd betrayed me on a level I never thought possible. The woman I trusted, who I thought was my partner, had been screwing around with my liver donor, no less, before my transplant surgery. That was the real kicker. She had been cheating with Mark, the guy who was supposed to be helping me get a new lease on life, and it gets worse. That same donor, his name was Dave, was the one who gave me my liver, the very organ that saved my life. I've always been grateful, and I still am. But what I didn't know, Lisa had been sleeping with him too. They'd been sneaking around behind my back all while I was fighting for my life. I found out after that night because I did some digging. I got hold of some messages from Dave to Lisa. They'd been planning their little affair for weeks, maybe longer. It turns out she'd been lying to me from the start, hiding her true intentions all along. The betrayal was so deep I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. Like the gift of life I received came with unspoken expectations, and those expectations were nothing but lies. I was furious. Not just angry, but furious in a way I'd never experienced before. How could she do this? The woman I married, the woman I'd trusted with my life, had been cheating on me with my own donor, my second chance at life. I kept asking myself if I had missed the signs, if I'd been blind to her manipulations. I wondered if she'd ever truly loved me, or if I was just a means to an end for her. The whole thing felt like some sick, twisted game she was playing, and I was the pawn. I knew I had to confront her. There was no way I could carry this secret anymore. But I also knew this was going to explode everything we had. I wasn't sure if I wanted to save what was left or finally just cut it all loose. All I knew is that my life, my trust, my heart, everything, had been shattered in ways I couldn't fix overnight. And right now, I was just trying to breathe, trying to gather the strength to face her and finally get some answers. The day I confronted Lisa was the worst day of my life, and honestly, I don't think I'll ever forget how it felt. I'd spent days, no, weeks, building up the courage, replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out what I'd say, how I'd catch her in a lie, or maybe just get her to admit the truth. I'd gathered all the evidence I needed, screenshots of texts, receipts, her secret messages, and I was ready to finally lay everything out on the table. That afternoon, I came home early from work, my nerves on edge. When I walked in, she was in the kitchen pretending to be busy, but I could see the nervous flicker in her eyes. I shut the door behind me and just looked at her. It was like I could see right through her. She knew what was coming. "So, Lisa," I started, voice strangely calm but icy cold inside. "We need to talk." She froze for a second, then tried to act casual, like I wasn't about to drop a bombshell. "What are you talking about, Mike?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages, the pictures, the receipts. Her face went pale. Her lips trembled, and she looked for a way to spin her lies. "That's not what you think. You're overreacting. It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything." I couldn't believe she had the nerve to brush it off like that. Sex. That was all it was. Her lies were so blatant, I was almost laughing at how pathetic her excuse sounded. "Just sex." I echoed, voice rising in anger. "You've been sleeping with my liver donor, Lisa, the guy who saved my life. That's not just sex, it's a betrayal on a level I can't even put into words. While I was fighting for my life, you were fucking someone else, someone I trusted enough to give me a second chance." She blinked, trying to deny it, her tone shifting into that bitchy edge she always had when she knew she was caught. "You don't understand, Mike. It's complicated. Dave's just a friend. It's not like I loved him or anything. It was a mistake. I was lonely, okay? I didn't mean for it to get out of hand." That's when the anger boiled over. I felt my fists clenching. "A mistake? You think I believe that? You lied to me for months, maybe longer. You've been hiding this from me and you expect me to buy that crap. You think I'm some idiot. You've been manipulating me, gaslighting me, all while sleeping with the guy who literally gave me my life back. Do you even realize what that makes you? A selfish, lying bitch." She started crying then, fake tears streaming down her face, as if that was going to somehow make me feel sorry for her, but I wasn't buying it. I felt nothing but rage, hurt, and disgust. I'd trusted her with everything, my life, my heart, my future. And she'd thrown it all away for some secret affair with the very man whose life-saving organ was inside me. I told her I wanted her out of my house, that I couldn't stay married to someone so deceitful. Her excuses kept pouring out, blaming alcohol, loneliness, the fact she didn't mean for it to happen, saying she loved me but she just lost herself. but none of it mattered. Nothing she said could undo what she'd done. It was like she was trying to justify a betrayal that had cut so deep I didn't know if I'd ever recover. The emotional fallout was immediate. I felt numb, then furious, then utterly devastated. I'd gone from feeling like I had everything under control to realizing my entire life had been a lie. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I married, was a fraud. And the fact that she'd betrayed me with my own donor, someone I was supposed to trust, made this feel like some sick, twisted nightmare. I kept asking myself over and over, how did I not see it? How did I miss all the signs? Was I just too blind, or was she that good at hiding it? The hardest part was the realization that I might never be able to trust anyone again. I'd given her my heart and she'd used it to get close to Dave, the man who saved my life. That's what cut the deepest, the thought that I was a pawn in some sick game she was playing. And as I looked at her, broken and desperate, I also felt a strange, bitter sense of relief. Maybe now I could finally see her for who she really was. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, hell, I couldn't breathe properly. The world felt like it was tilting off its axis. I threw her out that night, told her to pack her things and never come back. She was crying, begging, trying to spin some new story, but I was done. There was no coming back from this kind of betrayal. I knew I couldn't pretend everything was normal anymore. For days, I just sat in my house, staring at the walls, replaying everything over and over. The shock started to wear off, replaced by a cold, hard anger. I kept thinking about how she must have felt, sleeping with a man who was essentially a stranger to me, and doing it all behind my back. I wonder if she even cared about the fact that I'd been on the verge of death, fighting for my life while she was out screwing around with him. I also couldn't shake the feeling of disgust. Disgust at her, at Dave, at myself for trusting her. And I kept asking, what was I supposed to do now? What kind of future could I even picture anymore? I had to make some decisions. I knew I couldn't stay in that house, not with her gone and my mind reeling. So I moved into the guest bedroom, alone with my thoughts. I started reaching out to friends, tried to find someone to talk to, but honestly I felt so damn numb I didn't know what to say. The biggest shock came when I finally found out the full extent of her lies. Apparently she'd been sneaking around for months, hiding texts, merging her life with Dave's in secret. But I also learned something else that made the whole thing even worse. Her motives weren't just about sex or loneliness. A part of me always wondered if she'd seen an opportunity in my illness, in the fact that I was vulnerable. I never wanted to believe she could be that manipulative, but now I was pretty sure she'd planned this from the start. I came across some messages where she was talking about the gift of life and how the donor was perfect for her, like I was some kind of obstacle she had to get past. She referred to Dave as her ticket out, like she saw him as her way to a better life, a way to escape the mess she'd made with me. I felt sick reading that. I'd thought all along that she loved me, or at least cared about what we had. But deep down, I knew her feelings had been a lie. She saw my transplantation not as a miracle, but as some kind of opportunity, a ticket to something else, something she wanted more than she ever admitted. I started questioning everything about our life together. How many times had she lied? How many moments of intimacy were just cover-ups for her real agenda? Was she ever really in love with me? Or was I just a pawn, a vehicle for her to get what she wanted? The betrayal cut so deep I thought I might drown in it. I felt like I'd been played for a fool, used and discarded like yesterday's trash. The love I'd felt, was that even real? Or did I just fool myself into thinking I had something special with her? I know I'm rambling now, but it's hard to put into words what it's like to find out someone you trusted with your life, your soul, was secretly screwing around with the very man who gave you a second chance. It's like your entire foundation has been shattered and you're left trying to pick up the pieces. I felt rage, heartbreak, even some guilt. Guilt because I kept asking myself if I missed the signs, if I was blind to what she was doing. The truth is, I never saw it coming. How could I? I loved her, still do, in some twisted way, and I never thought she'd do something this horrible. So I decided I couldn't stay in that house. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to hear her name. I needed space, time, clarity. I started staying at a friend's place just to get away from all the chaos. But no matter where I was, the pain was always there, constant and unforgiving. The only thing I knew for sure was that I had to rebuild myself somehow. I had to learn how to live with this betrayal, except that the woman I loved had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And I had to figure out what the hell to do next because my world was falling apart piece by piece. In the days that followed, I felt like I was underwater, drowning in a mixture of anger, despair, and confusion. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her fake tears, her lies, and it made me want to scream. I kept replaying everything, trying to make sense of how I hadn't seen it sooner, how I'd been blind to her manipulations. It was like I'd been asleep, and now I was wide awake in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I started talking more with friends, people who knew. They couldn't believe it either, especially once I laid out the details of her affair with Dave, the donor. No one could understand how she had the nerve to betray me like that, especially knowing what that organ meant to me. I told some of my closest friends about the texts, the secret meetings, the way she'd been lying all along. Their reactions ranged from shock to anger, and mostly, they told me I deserved better, that I shouldn't be with someone who could do this, who could betray me so completely. I also began seeing a therapist. At first I didn't think it would help, but sitting there, spilling everything out, how I felt, what I discovered, kind of took the edge off. I realized I'd been holding all this inside, burying it deep. But the truth is I was broken. I still loved her, deep down, even knowing what she'd done. It's crazy how love can turn into this complicated, tangled mess of pain and hope all at once. One thing I kept asking myself was, could I ever forgive her? Could I ever look at her again without feeling this burning hatred? Honestly, I didn't know. I felt like I was in a war with myself, torn between wanting justice and wanting to forget it all. But I knew I couldn't stay in that marriage, not after what I'd learned. Trust was gone, completely shattered. The woman I'd married had been playing me from the start, and I was just a pawn in her sick game. So I made a decision. I had to cut ties. No more excuses, no more pretending I didn't know the truth. I filed for divorce. It was a long, painful process. Legal papers, conversations with lawyers, trying to figure out what I was entitled to after everything she'd done. I wanted her out of my life, out of my mind, forever. I realized I'd been holding on to some hope that things might somehow get better, that she'd come clean, be honest. But she never did. And after everything I'd gone through, I know I deserve better than a liar and a cheater. The aftermath isn't easy. I still wake up some mornings feeling numb, wondering how I got here. But I also feel a strange sense of clarity, like I've been given a second chance, even if it's a battered one. I've started rebuilding my life, focusing on myself, on my health, on what truly matters. The betrayal will always leave scars, but I refuse to let it define me. Looking back, I've learned a lot. Trust is fragile, and sometimes people wear masks so well you don't see the cracks until it's too late. I also learned that love can sometimes blind you to the truth, to the lies, to the damage underneath. And finally, I've learned that sometimes you have to walk away from what's broken to find something better. I know I'll carry this pain with me for a while, but I also know I'm strong enough to move forward. And that, in the end, is what matters. Now, as I sit here reflecting on everything, I realize how much I've been through and how far I've come. The pain from discovering Lisa's betrayal still lingers, but it's no longer overwhelming. I've learned that the human spirit can endure the worst kinds of heartbreak and still find a way to rebuild. The trust I once had in her is gone, and honestly, I don't know if I'll ever love her again. But I've gained something else, clarity about what I deserve and the strength to walk away from someone who didn't value me. The biggest lesson I take away from all this is that life is unpredictable, and people are often much more complicated than they seem. Lisa's betrayal wasn't just about cheating, it was about deception at the deepest level. She saw my life as an opportunity, not a partnership. That realization has changed how I view relationships moving forward. I know now that honesty and respect are everything, and I won't settle for less. I also discovered that forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It's about accepting that sometimes people can't be trusted, and you have to let go of the hope that they will change. Forgiveness is more for yourself, so you can free your mind from the poison of bitterness and focus on healing. I'm not there yet, and I probably won't be for a long time, but I'm working on it one day at a time. Most importantly, I've realized that my worth isn't tied to what she did or how she betrayed me. I am still the same person I was before, maybe a little more cautious, a little more guarded, but still capable of love, trust, and happiness. I've started rebuilding my life, reconnecting with old friends, focusing on my career, and even exploring new interests I'd neglected during the chaos. It's not easy, but I owe it to myself to move on and find peace. In the end, this experience taught me that betrayal can break you, but it can also make you stronger if you allow it. I don't hold on to anger anymore, just a quiet resolve to never let anyone manipulate or deceive me like that again. I've learned to value myself more, to listen to my instincts, and to never settle for someone who doesn't deserve my trust. Life gave me a second chance, and I refuse to waste it on someone who never truly cared. I'll keep moving forward, battered but resilient, knowing that someday I'll find happiness again on my own terms.